How do you talk your way out of betrayal when your secret is exposed by the one man who never should have spoken? What if your entire world, your marriage, your friendships, your carefully arranged lies, collapsed the moment your drunk ex raised a glass and toasted to your secret nights in front of your husband? That was the night my double life exploded, and I learned just how far people would go for revenge. The champagne glass trembled in Mason's hand as he swayed slightly, that familiar crooked grin spreading across his face. I knew that look. I'd seen it 100 times before during our Tuesday night meetings at the Lantern, but never here, never in my living room, surrounded by my family, my friends, my husband. Wait, Mason slurred, raising his glass higher. The room fell quiet, everyone turning toward him with polite smiles. Before we sing happy birthday to our beautiful Lysandra, I just want to make a toast. My stomach dropped. Rowan stood beside me, his arm around my waist, completely unsuspecting. Our 7-year-old daughter Eloise giggled from her spot on the couch between my mother-in-law Judith and my sister Petra. The birthday candles flickered on the cake, casting dancing shadows across the walls of our suburban townhouse. "Mason, you don't need to," I started, but he was already speaking. "To Lysandra," he announced, his voice carrying across the room filled with 20 of our closest friends and family members. "To the most exciting woman I know, to our secret Tuesday nights at the Lantern, and to all the adventures we've shared when nobody else was watching." The silence that followed was deafening. I felt Rowan's arm stiffen around me, his body going rigid. The smile on his face didn't fade immediately. It hung there for a moment, frozen, like a photograph slowly burning at the edges. "Mason's had too much to drink," I laughed quickly, the sound sharp and brittle in the quiet room. "You know how bartenders are. They never know when to stop sampling their own products." But the damage was done. I could see it in the way Judith's eyes narrowed, in how my mother Marlene's face went pale, in the knowing smirk that crossed Petra's lips. My friend Sienna actually giggled, covering her mouth with her hand, like we were all in on some delicious secret. Rowan's smile finally cracked, not all at once, but slowly, like ice breaking on a frozen lake. His arm dropped from around my waist. "Secret Tuesday nights?" he asked quietly, his voice barely audible over the sudden burst of nervous chatter that erupted around us. "It's nothing," I said quickly. "Mason's being dramatic. You know how he is. Always trying to make everything sound more exciting than it really is. We just grab drinks sometimes when I'm running errands. It's completely innocent." But Rowan wasn't looking at me anymore. He was staring at Mason, who had finally realized what he'd done. The color was draining from Mason's face as he looked around the room, seeing the shocked expressions, the whispered conversation starting up. "Oh shit," Mason muttered. "Lysandra, I didn't mean—" "Let's just sing happy birthday," I interrupted loudly, forcing brightness into my voice. "Come on, everyone. The candles are melting." The song was awkward, off-key, filled with sideways glances and uncomfortable shuffling. Rowan didn't sing. He stood there like a statue, his hands clenched at his sides, watching me blow out the candles. When I made my wish, that this would all blow over, that we could pretend it never happened, I knew it wouldn't come true. The party limped along for another hour. People made excuses to leave early. Judith helped clean up without saying a word to me, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. Petra kept shooting me meaningful looks, clearly dying to get me alone to demand details. My mother kept wringing her hands and muttering about what people must think. Mason left without saying goodbye. When the last guest finally departed, I found Rowan sitting in his home office, the lights off, staring at his computer screen. The blue glow illuminated his face, making him look like a stranger. "Rowan," I said softly from the doorway, "we need to talk." He didn't turn around. "Do we?" Mason was drunk. He was trying to make a joke. You know how he is. He's always been dramatic, always trying to be the center of attention. There's nothing going on between us. "Secret Tuesday nights," Rowan repeated, his voice flat. "That's what he said. Secret Tuesday nights at the Lantern. They're not secret. I told you I run errands on Tuesdays. Sometimes I stop by the Lantern for a drink. Mason works there. We talk. That's all. You told me you went to the grocery store, to the dry cleaner, to pick up prescriptions. I do those things too, and sometimes I stop for a drink. There's nothing wrong with that. Finally, he turned around. In the dim light, his eyes looked hollow. How long? How long what? How long have you been lying to me? The word lying hit me like a slap. I haven't been lying. I've been living my life. I'm allowed to have friends, Rowan. I'm allowed to have a drink with an old friend without getting the 3rd degree from my husband. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned back to his computer. Go to bed, Lysandra. Rowan, go to bed. I stood there for another minute, waiting for him to say something else, to give me an opening to explain, to make this right. But he just sat there in the dark, and eventually I had no choice but to leave him alone. I lay awake all night, listening for his footsteps on the stairs. They never came. I woke up alone. Rowan's side of the bed was cold and undisturbed, the pillows still perfectly arranged. I found him in the kitchen, already dressed for work, drinking coffee and scrolling through his phone. He didn't look up when I entered. Did you sleep in your office? I asked, pouring myself coffee with hands that shook slightly. Yes. Rowan, this is ridiculous. We're adults. We can talk about this. He finally looked at me, and I was startled by how tired he looked. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his usually neat hair was disheveled. What would you like to talk about, Lysandra? How many Tuesday nights? How many lies? How many times you looked me in the eye and told me you were running errands while you were actually meeting your ex-boyfriend for drinks? He's not my ex-boyfriend, I snapped. We dated for like 3 months in college. That was 15 years ago. He's a friend. A friend you meet in secret. Not in secret. I just didn't think it was worth mentioning every single time I ran into someone I knew while I was out. Rowan set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. Ran into someone, or made plans to meet someone. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. What difference does it make? Nothing happened. We talked. We caught up. That's what friends do. Friends don't toast to secret nights, Lysandra. Before I could respond, Eloise came bouncing into the kitchen, her school backpack already on her shoulders. Daddy, why didn't you come to bed last night? I had a bad dream and you weren't there. Rowan's expression softened as he knelt down to hug her. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Daddy had some work to finish. Did Mommy help you with the bad dream? Eloise shook her head. Mommy was crying. I felt my face burn. I wasn't crying, honey. I just had something in my eye. Rowan looked at me over Eloise's head, and I saw something shift in his expression. Not softness, something harder, more resolved. I'll drive you to school today, Eloise, he said, standing up. Mommy needs to rest. After they left, I called Petra. She answered on the first ring. Oh my God, she said before I could even speak. I've been waiting for you to call. What the hell was that last night? Can I come over? I need to talk to someone. Get over here right now. I'll make coffee. Petra's apartment was a 15-minute drive from my house, in a trendy complex downtown that she could barely afford on her marketing coordinator salary. She met me at the door in her pajamas, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. Spill, she said, leading me to her kitchen. Everything. Now. I collapsed onto her couch and told her everything. About Mason, about the Tuesday meetings, about how it started innocently, just running into him at the Lantern one day when I was feeling overwhelmed and needed a drink. How it became a regular thing. How good it felt to talk to someone who remembered me from before I was a wife and mother, who saw me as Lysandra, not just Rowan's wife or Eloise's mom. It's not an affair, I insisted. We've never done anything physical. We just talk. We laugh. He makes me feel young again. Petra listened without interrupting, her expression growing more concerned as I talked. Lysandra, she said when I finished, you've been meeting your ex-boyfriend every week for 6 months and lying to your husband about it. How is that not a problem? Because nothing happened, I exploded. God, you sound just like Rowan. I'm allowed to have friends. I'm allowed to have a life outside my marriage. Of course you are, but you're not allowed to lie about it. And you're definitely not allowed to have secret relationships with men you used to sleep with. We didn't sleep together. We dated for 3 months in college. It was nothing. Then why didn't you tell Rowan about it? I stared at her, feeling betrayed. I thought you'd understand. I thought you'd be on my side. I am on your side. That's why I'm telling you the truth. You fucked up, Lysandra. You need to figure out how to fix this. My phone buzzed. A text from Mason. I'm so sorry about last night. I was drunk and stupid. People are asking me questions about what I said. What should I tell them? I showed the text to Petra. Her face went pale. People are talking, she said quietly. What people? I've gotten 3 texts this morning. Sienna, my co-worker Jessica, who was at the party, and Mom. They all want to know what Mason meant about secret nights. I felt the room spin slightly. What did you tell them? Nothing yet, but Lysandra, you need to get ahead of this. If people are talking... There's nothing to get ahead of, I interrupted. There's nothing to talk about. Mason was drunk and said something stupid. That's all. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't that simple. In a town like ours, gossip spread like wildfire. And I could already see the flame starting to catch. By Wednesday afternoon, my phone was buzzing constantly. Text messages, social media notifications, missed calls. I'd made the mistake of checking Facebook and found that someone, probably Sienna, had posted about the interesting birthday party drama she'd witnessed. The comments were already multiplying. What happened? Tell us everything. I heard something about secret meetings. Poor Rowan, he looked devastated. I deleted the post from my timeline, but it was too late. Screenshots lived forever, and I could already see it being shared in other groups. My mother called while I was picking Eloise up from school. Lysandra Marie, she said, using my full name the way she had when I was in trouble as a child. Marlene Rossetti just called me. She heard from her neighbor that you've been having an affair. I am not having an affair, I hissed, glancing at Eloise in the rear-view mirror. She was absorbed in her tablet, headphones on, but I lowered my voice anyway. And since when do you listen to Marlene Rossetti? She's the biggest gossip in town. Since she's telling everyone at the grocery store that my daughter is cheating on her husband. Do you know how humiliating that is for me? Mum, nothing happened. Mason was drunk and said something stupid. That's all. Then why is everyone talking about it? Why did Judith Vale give me the coldest look I've ever received when I ran into her at the bank today? My heart sank. If Judith was already turning against me, this was worse than I thought. I'll handle it, I said. You better handle it fast. This family doesn't need this kind of scandal. That evening, Rowan came home late. He'd been staying at the office longer and longer, clearly avoiding me. When he finally walked through the door at 8:30, I was waiting for him in the living room with a glass of wine and his favorite dinner warming in the oven. We need to talk, I said. I'm tired, Lysandra. 5 minutes, please. He sat down across from me, still in his work clothes, his tie loosened but not removed. He looked like he was attending a business meeting he didn't want to be at. People are talking, I said, about what Mason said at the party. I know. You know, how do you know? 3 people at work asked me about it today. Apparently there's a video. My blood turned to ice. A video? Sienna posted it on her Instagram story. Someone screen recorded it before she took it down. I grabbed my phone and opened Instagram, searching frantically. I found the video on a gossip account called Local Tea. Mason's drunken toast, my horrified expression, Rowan's face as he processed what he was hearing. The caption read, "When your side piece crashes your birthday party, Jackie drama, chakran messy talk, Jackie cheating wife." It had been viewed over 1,000 times. Oh God, I whispered. The whole town has seen it by now, Rowan said quietly. My boss asked me if I needed some time off to deal with personal issues. Eloise's teacher pulled me aside at pickup and asked if there was any stress at home that might be affecting her behavior. What did you tell them? Nothing. What was I supposed to say? That my wife has been lying to me for months. That I found out about her affair at her birthday party in front of everyone we know. It's not an affair, I shouted, then immediately lowered my voice, remembering Eloise was upstairs. It's not an affair, Rowan. How many times do I have to tell you that? Then what is it, Lysandra? Explain it to me. Make me understand why you've been meeting another man in secret every week for 6 months. Make me understand why you lied to me about where you were going. Make me understand why he knows you well enough to toast to your secret nights like your lovers. Because you're jealous, I exploded. Because you're controlling and possessive, and you would have made a big deal out of nothing. Because every time I mention any man's name, you get that look on your face like I'm about to run off with him. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this. Rowan stared at me for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. So this is my fault. I didn't say that. You just did. You just told me that you lied to me for months because I'm controlling and jealous. You just told me that you had to sneak around behind my back because I can't be trusted with the truth. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. He stood up. That's exactly what you meant. And you know what, Lysandra? Maybe you're right. Maybe I am controlling and jealous. Maybe I do expect too much when I expect my wife to tell me the truth about where she's going and who she's seeing. Maybe I'm old-fashioned for thinking that marriage means we don't have secrets from each other. Rowan, I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight, and tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. He walked out of the room, leaving me sitting there with my untouched wine and the video of my humiliation playing on repeat on my phone. A message notification popped up. It was from Mason. We need to talk. People won't stop asking me questions. This is getting out of hand. I typed back, "Stay away from me. You've done enough damage." His response came immediately. "I'm sorry. I never meant for this to happen. But Lysandra, people are saying things. Bad things. About both of us. Maybe we should get our stories straight." I turned off my phone and poured myself another glass of wine. Outside, I could see the neighbors' lights on, and I wondered if they were talking about me too. If the video had made its way into their group chats. If my 7-year marriage was becoming entertainment for the whole town. The wine tasted bitter, but I drank it anyway. Thursday morning brought a new humiliation. I was getting coffee at our usual cafe when I overheard 2 women at the next table talking in loud whispers. "Did you see that video? The one with the cheating wife?" "Oh my God, yes. So embarrassing. Can you imagine finding out like that in front of everyone? I feel so bad for the husband. He seemed like such a nice guy. And they have a little girl, don't they? So selfish." I grabbed my coffee and hurried out, my cheeks burning. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and called Sienna. "Hey girl," she answered, but her voice sounded strained. "What's up?" "We need to talk about the video." There was a pause. "What video?" "Don't play dumb, Sienna. The video from my party that you posted." "Oh, that. I took it down right away. I didn't think. But someone recorded it before you deleted it. It's all over social media now." Another pause. "Lysandra, I'm really sorry. I was drunk and thought it was funny. I didn't realize it would blow up like this. I need you to help me do damage control. Tell people it was a misunderstanding, that Mason was drunk and joking around." I don't think I can do that." "What do you mean you can't do that? You're my friend." "I am your friend, but Lysandra, I can't lie for you. And honestly, after thinking about it, what Mason said was pretty specific. Secret Tuesday nights isn't really something you joke about." I felt like she'd slapped me. "So you think I'm cheating too?" "I think you've been lying to your husband about spending time with another man, and I think that's not okay. I can't believe this. I can't believe you're turning on me like everyone else." "I'm not turning on you. I'm just not going to pretend that what you did was okay." I hung up on her. When I got home, I found Judith's car in my driveway. She was sitting at my kitchen table with Eloise, helping her with homework. They both looked up when I walked in, and I could immediately see the tension in Judith's shoulders. "Grandma Judith came to pick me up from school today," Eloise announced. "She said you were busy." I looked at Judith, confused. "I didn't ask you to pick her up." "No," Judith said calmly. "Rowan did. He thought it might be better if Eloise didn't have to deal with any complications at school pickup." "What complications?" Judith's expression was carefully neutral. "Apparently, some of the other parents have been talking. Eloise's teacher thought it might be less stressful for everyone if a family member handled pickup for a few days." My stomach dropped. "Other parents are talking about me at my daughter's school?" "Eloise, honey," Judith said gently, "why don't you go upstairs and play for a bit? I need to talk to your mommy." Once Eloise was gone, Judith's mask of politeness fell away. "What were you thinking?" she asked quietly. "Judith, please. Not you too." "Yes, me too. That boy, Mason, he worked at the country club last summer. He's trouble, Lysandra. Everyone knows it. And you've been meeting him behind my son's back for months. Nothing happened between us." "I don't care if nothing happened. You lied to your husband. You humiliated him in front of his friends and family. You've made our entire family the subject of gossip and speculation. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices. Every Tuesday for 6 months, you chose to lie to the man who loves you and sneak around with another man. Don't insult my intelligence by calling it a mistake." I felt tears starting to form. "What do you want me to do? How do I fix this?" Judith stood up, gathering her purse. "I don't know if you can fix it, but if you want to try, you need to stop making excuses and start taking responsibility. And you need to do it fast, because my son is talking to lawyers, and frankly, I don't blame him." After she left, I poured myself a glass of wine and tried to think. Rowan was serious about the lawyer. My friends were turning against me. My daughter's school life was being affected. This was spiraling out of control, and I needed to do something to stop it. I decided to fight back. I opened Facebook and typed out a post. "I want to address the rumors that are circulating about my family. Yes, I have a friend named Mason. Yes, we sometimes get drinks and catch up. No, we are not having an affair. I'm disappointed that people I trusted would spread gossip and lies about me without knowing the facts. Marriage is hard work, and it requires trust and communication. I hope that Rowan and I can work through this difficult time privately, without the interference of people who don't know what they're talking about. I ask that you please respect our family's privacy and stop spreading hurtful rumors about people you claim to care about." I posted it and sat back, feeling vindicated. Within minutes, the comments started rolling in. "Girl, if it was innocent, why keep it secret? We saw the video. That man was talking like y'all were having an affair. Poor Rowan, he deserves better. Maybe focus less on defending yourself and more on apologizing to your husband." I started deleting the negative comments, but they kept coming faster than I could delete them. Finally, I deleted the entire post, but not before it had been screenshot and shared in multiple group chats. When Rowan came home that night, he looked exhausted. He barely acknowledged me, just kissed Eloise goodnight and disappeared into his office. I could hear him on the phone, his voice low and serious. I knocked on the door. "I'm busy, Lysandra." "Who are you talking to?" "My lawyer." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Rowan, please, don't do this. Think about Eloise. Think about our family." The door opened, and he stood there looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, distant, like he was looking at a stranger. "I'm thinking about Eloise," he said. "That's exactly what I'm thinking about." He closed the door in my face. Friday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from my mother and a text that made my blood run cold. "The video is on the local news Facebook page. Call me now." I grabbed my laptop and searched for our local news station's page. There it was, posted with the caption, "Local drama goes viral, birthday party toast exposes alleged affair." The video had been viewed over 50,000 times and shared hundreds of times, with comments ranging from sympathetic, poor husband, to vicious, homewrecker. My phone rang. My mother. "Lysandra, what have you done?" she whispered. "Mrs. Patterson from down the street just called me. She saw you on the news." "It's not news, Mom, it's gossip." "It's everywhere. Your father is mortified. He's refusing to leave the house." "Dad barely leaves the house anyway." "Don't you dare take that tone with me. This is serious. This affects all of us. Your sister called me crying because her co-workers are asking her about her cheating sister. Do you understand what you've done to this family?" Before I could answer, I heard Rowan's voice in the hallway, talking quietly on his phone. I crept to the bedroom door and listened. "Yes, I have documentation," he was saying. "Bank statements showing cash withdrawals every Tuesday for 6 months, phone records, text messages, the video, obviously, and several witnesses who can testify to her behavior at the party." My knees went weak. He was building a case against me. "I want primary custody," he continued. "She's proven she can't be trusted. I won't have my daughter exposed to this kind of instability." I stumbled backward, my heart pounding. He was going to try to take Eloise away from me. I called Petra, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. Finally, I drove to her apartment and knocked on the door. She opened it reluctantly, not inviting me in. "Petra, I need help. Rowan's talking to lawyers about custody. I need you to tell people that nothing happened with Mason, that you know me and you know I wouldn't cheat." Petra looked uncomfortable. "Lysandra, I can't do that." "Why not? You're my sister." "Because I don't know that. Because you lied to me too. Because you told me you were just grabbing coffee with an old friend occasionally, not meeting him every week for 6 months." "I didn't lie to you." "Yes, you did. And now people are asking me what I knew and when I knew it. My boss saw the video. My neighbors are looking at me funny. You've dragged me into this mess, and I can't afford to have my reputation damaged because of your choices." I stared at her in shock. "You're abandoning me. I'm protecting myself. And honestly, Lysandra, maybe you should stop worrying about what everyone else thinks and start worrying about saving your marriage." "My marriage is over. Rowan won't even talk to me." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before you started sneaking around with Mason." I left her apartment feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. My husband hated me, my friends had turned against me, my family was embarrassed by me, and now even my sister was distancing herself. I drove to the Lantern, hoping to find Mason. I needed to talk to someone who understood, someone who wouldn't judge me. The bar was nearly empty at 2 in the afternoon. Mason was behind the bar, polishing glasses, but he looked up when I walked in. His expression was not welcoming. "Lysandra, you shouldn't be here. I need to talk to you." "No, you don't. You need to go home to your husband and figure out how to fix your marriage." "My marriage is over, thanks to you." He set down the glass he was holding and looked at me seriously. "Thanks to me? I'm not the one who's married, Lysandra. I'm not the one who lied to my spouse for 6 months. I'm not the one who made vows to someone and then broke them. I didn't break any vows. We never did anything physical. We had an emotional affair, and you know it. You came here every week to escape your real life. You flirted with me. You confided in me. You treated me like your boyfriend while your husband was at home thinking you were running errands. It is exactly what happened. And now my boss is getting calls from angry people saying they won't come here anymore because I'm a homewrecker. I might lose my job because of this." I felt a spark of anger. "So you're abandoning me too?" "I'm facing reality, something you should try." He leaned across the bar. "Go home, Lysandra. Apologize to your husband. Beg him to forgive you. And leave me out of it." I left the Lantern feeling desperate and cornered. Everyone I'd counted on had turned against me. But I still had one card left to play. That evening, when Rowan came home, I was waiting for him in the living room with Eloise on my lap, reading her a story. "Daddy!" Eloise jumped up and ran to him. "Mommy's been sad all day. Are you still fighting?" Rowan's expression softened as he hugged our daughter. "Adults sometimes disagree, sweetheart, but it's not your fault, okay? Will you and Mommy get divorced like Emma's parents?" I saw Rowan's jaw tighten. "We're working through some problems right now." "I don't want you to get divorced," Eloise said, her voice small. "I want us to stay a family." "Eloise, honey," I said, standing up, "why don't you go get ready for your bath? Daddy and I need to talk." Once she was upstairs, Rowan turned to me with fury in his eyes. "Don't you dare use our daughter as a weapon against me." "I'm not using her as anything. I'm trying to save our family." "By manipulating a 7-year-old? By making her think the divorce is my fault?" "I never said it was your fault. You didn't have to. You had her sitting on your lap looking sad when I walked in. You're trying to make me look like the bad guy who's breaking up the family. Aren't you? You're the one talking to lawyers. You're the one who wants a divorce." "I'm the one who got betrayed," he shouted, then immediately lowered his voice, glancing toward the stairs. "I'm the one who found out his wife was lying to him for months. I'm the one who was humiliated in front of everyone we know. I'm the one whose trust was shattered. It was just drinks, Rowan, just conversation. Just lies, Lysandra, just deception, just you choosing another man over your family every week for 6 months." He walked toward the stairs, then turned back. "I'm filing for divorce on Monday, and I'm asking for primary custody. You can see Eloise on weekends. You can't take my daughter away from me. Watch me." Monday morning arrived like a death sentence. I'd spent the weekend in a haze of wine and panic, calling lawyers who either couldn't see me for weeks or had already been contacted by Rowan. Small-town life meant limited options, and apparently my husband had been thorough. I finally found a lawyer willing to see me that afternoon, a young woman named Rebecca Chen, who'd just started her own practice and needed clients. "I have to be honest with you, Mrs. Vale," she said after reviewing the papers Rowan's lawyer had sent over. "This doesn't look good. Your husband has documented evidence of deception going back 6 months. He has the video, witness statements from the party, and what appears to be a very thorough financial analysis showing a pattern of secretive behavior." "But I didn't cheat," I insisted. "There was no physical affair." "That may be true, but in custody cases, the court looks at judgment and stability. Your husband can argue that your secretive relationship shows poor judgment that could affect your parenting. So he gets to take my daughter away because I had drinks with a friend. He gets to make that argument, yes, and given the public nature of how this came to light and the documentation he has—" She shrugged apologetically. I left her office feeling defeated. Outside, I sat in my car and called Petra one more time. "Please," I said when she answered, "I need you to testify that I'm a good mother, that this doesn't affect how I parent Eloise. Lysandra, I can't get involved in your custody battle. You're my sister. And Eloise is my niece. I'm not going to get in the middle of this and risk making things worse for her." "Everyone's abandoned me," I whispered. "No one abandoned you. You made choices, and now you're facing consequences. I'm sorry it's hard, but this is what happens when you lie to people who love you." That evening, I tried one last desperate gambit. When Rowan came home, I was waiting for him with a bottle of his favorite wine and dinner from the Italian restaurant where we'd had our first date. "What is this?" he asked, looking at the setup suspiciously. "An apology. A real one. Please, just sit with me for 5 minutes." He remained standing. "Lysandra, nothing you say is going to change what happened. I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes? You had a 6-month emotional affair. You lied to me hundreds of times. You humiliated me and our daughter in front of everyone we know. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. And the worst part isn't even the lying, Lysandra. It's that you still don't think you did anything wrong. Every conversation we've had since the party, you've made excuses. You've blamed me for being controlling, blamed Mason for being drunk, blamed everyone except yourself. That's not true. isn't it? Have you once, even once, said, "I'm sorry I betrayed your trust"? Have you once said, "I'm sorry I chose another man over my family"? Have you once taken full responsibility for what you did? I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. He was right. I'd been so focused on defending myself, on proving that it wasn't that bad, that I'd never actually apologized for the hurt I'd caused. "I'm sorry," I whispered. Too late. He walked toward the stairs. "The mediation is scheduled for Thursday. I suggest you prepare." Thursday morning, I sat in a sterile conference room across from Rowan and his lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Morris, who had clearly done her homework. Between us sat the mediator, an older man who looked like he'd seen every kind of marital disaster imaginable. "Mrs. Vale," Patricia began, "my client is seeking dissolution of marriage based on irreconcilable differences, with primary custody of the minor child going to Mr. Vale." "On what grounds?" Rebecca asked. Patricia opened a thick folder. Documented pattern of deception spanning 6 months. Evidence of an inappropriate relationship with a male acquaintance. Public behavior that has affected the child's school environment and social relationships. She spread photos across the table. Screenshots of my Facebook posts and the comments. Printouts of the viral video with view counts. Bank statements showing cash withdrawals every Tuesday. Phone records showing calls and texts with Mason. Furthermore, she continued, we have testimony from family members and friends indicating that Mrs. Vale has shown no remorse for her actions and has instead attempted to blame others for the consequences of her choices. I looked at Rowan, but he was staring at the table. "Mr. Vale," the mediator said, "what are your specific concerns about shared custody?" Rowan finally looked up, and when he spoke, his voice was steady but pained. "My wife spent 6 months lying to me about where she was going and who she was seeing. She prioritized her relationship with another man over her responsibilities to our family. When confronted, she showed no remorse and instead tried to manipulate our daughter to make me look like the villain." "That's not what happened," I protested. "Isn't it?" Patricia pulled out another sheet of paper. "Mrs. Vale, is it true that on the evening of November 15th, you had your daughter sitting on your lap when your husband came home and prompted her to ask about divorce?" "I was just reading to her. After spending the day telling her that Daddy was making Mommy sad." I felt the walls closing in. She was upset. She could sense the tension. Tension that you created by lying to your husband for 6 months. The mediation continued for 2 hours. Every argument I made was countered with documentation. Every excuse was met with evidence. By the end, even I could see that I had no ground to stand on. "Mrs. Vale," the mediator said finally, "given the evidence presented, I'm recommending that Mr. Vale receive primary custody with supervised visitation for Mrs. Vale until she completes counseling and demonstrates stability." "Supervised visitation?" I gasped. "She's my daughter." "She's a child who's been exposed to instability and deception," Patricia replied calmly. "The court's primary concern is her well-being." I looked around the room, at the mediator's impassive face, at Patricia's satisfied expression, at Rebecca's apologetic shrug, at Rowan's careful neutrality. They were all strangers to me now. Even my husband of 7 years looked at me like I was someone he'd never met. "I need a moment," I whispered. I stepped outside into the hallway and called Petra one last time. "It's over," I said when she answered. "He's taking Eloise. I get supervised visitation." There was a long pause. "Lysandra, I'm sorry." "Are you? Are you really? Or are you relieved that the embarrassing sister is finally getting what she deserves?" "That's not fair. None of this is fair, but I guess that's what I get for trying to have a little happiness in my life." "Is that really what you think this was about? Happiness? What else would it be about?" "It was about selfishness, Lysandra. It was about you wanting attention and excitement without caring how it affected anyone else. It was about you lying to people who loved you because you thought you deserved to have whatever you wanted. I hung up on her and walked back into the conference room. "I'll sign," I said quietly. Patricia slid the papers across the table. As I signed my name, giving up my marriage and my daughter, I caught Rowan's eye. For just a moment, I thought I saw sadness there, maybe even regret. But then he looked away, and I knew it was really over. 6 months later, I sat in my studio apartment across town, scrolling through Facebook and watching my old life continue without me. Rowan had posted pictures of Eloise's school play. She looked happy and healthy. Judith had commented with heart emojis. Even Petra had liked the post. I saw Mason occasionally around town. He'd found a new job at a restaurant downtown after the Lantern let him go. We never spoke. My supervised visits with Eloise happened every other weekend at a family centre downtown. She was polite but distant, like she was visiting an acquaintance rather than her mother. The counsellor said it would take time to rebuild trust. I'd lost everything. My husband, my daughter, my home, my friends, my reputation. All for what? Tuesday afternoon drinks with a man who couldn't even be bothered to acknowledge me when we passed on the street. The worst part was that everyone had been right. Petra, Judith, even Rowan. I had been selfish. I had prioritized my own desires over my family's well-being. I had lied and manipulated and justified every step of the way. But admitting that now, when I had nothing left to lose, felt like the cruelest irony of all. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Saw your ex-husband at the grocery store with your daughter. They looked happy. Thought you should know he's dating someone new." A friend. I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of wine. Outside my window, the sun was setting on another day of the life I'd chosen. Tomorrow I would wake up alone, visit my daughter under supervision if it was my weekend, and continue living with the consequences of thinking I deserved more than what I had. The toast that had ended my marriage echoed in my memory. To our secret nights. Mason had been right about one thing. They had been secret, and secrets, I'd learned too late, always came with a price.